You think he's just being nice, right? Just friendly. But what if the guy you've been trying to figure out has actually been dropping hints all along and you've been too busy doubting yourself to notice? The truth is, men don't always say what they feel. They show it quietly. And once you learn to read those signs, everything changes. By the end of this, you'll be able to confidently recognize real interest without confusion, without overthinking. Most men won't confess feelings directly. Instead, they'll ask about your day and listen, remember small details from past conversations, find reasons to be around you, become more attentive and gentle in tone. These actions speak louder than words. When he makes space for you in his world, he's saying men hesitate, not due to lack of interest, but due to fear. Fear of misreading the situation, fear of rejection, fear of losing their pride. So instead of bold romance, he becomes subtly intentional, longer glances, soft smiles, thoughtful texts, testing the waters. He doesn't try to impress loudly. He invests quietly, shows consistency and attention, holds space in conversations, appreciates the details others ignore. His effort becomes his language. Before feelings are spoken, they're shown. He finds reasons to stay physically close. He mirrors your gestures unconsciously. Eye contact lasts longer than necessary. His body reveals what his voice hides. Proximity means comfort. Mirroring means emotional alignment. Eye contact means interest. When a man keeps the tiny details about you locked in his mind, it's not because he's trying to gather information. It's because those details connect him to you in a way he can feel but may not yet be ready to express. When you mention how you like your coffee, not too sweet, extra cream, he doesn't just hear it for the moment, he stores it. The next time you're together, he might show up with that exact coffee in his hand, pretending it was just a lucky guess. But inside, he knows he listened on purpose. When you talk about the kind of music that relaxes you, or the song you grew up listening to, he not only remembers, he goes home and listens to it. He wants to understand the world that shaped you. He wants to step into your memories, even if just for a moment, because it helps him feel closer. These actions seem so small, but they speak volumes about where his heart is leaning. People don't invest energy into what they don't care about. Memory requires care. Attention requires interest. Think about how busy life can be. Everyone has their own responsibilities, distractions, and stress constantly pulling at their mind. So when someone takes the time to remember the tiny things you say, the trivial details most others would forget within seconds, that is not coincidence. It is effort. It means you stand out in a world full of noise. Maybe you once mentioned how green tea helps you sleep better, and suddenly he brings it up later asking if you had your tea last night. Or you casually shared that rain makes you feel gloomy, and the next rainy day he checks in a little more warmly. These small reminders tell you one thing: he's paying attention not just to your words, but to your emotional world. When someone cares about you, what matters to you becomes important to them. He may remember the date of your exam, the interview you're nervous about, or the appointment you didn't want to go to. He doesn't need a reminder or a notification because your stress automatically becomes a thought in his mind. He follows up not because he's trying to impress you, but because he genuinely wants to know you're okay. Your comfort matters to him, your happiness affects him, and your worries don't feel separate from his anymore. This kind of emotional investment doesn't scream for attention. It doesn't show itself in dramatic gestures. Instead, it reveals itself in the way he notices when you are a little quieter than usual, or when something you love is mentioned and his eyes light up like it's personal to him too. These tiny reflections of you inside his memory show that he's been listening, not accidentally, but intentionally. There's also a deeper psychological layer. The human mind prioritizes what it values. We remember what we feel connected to. When he remembers something small about you, that memory is anchored to emotion. Whether that emotion is admiration, interest, curiosity, or affection, he is not memorizing facts. He is holding on to little pieces of who you are. That's why you may notice he brings up things you forgot you even shared. Something from a random night conversation, something said half asleep, something that lasted only a few seconds in your mind but hours in his. That's the beauty of quiet care. It notices what the world ignores. Most people listen just long enough to respond, but someone who cares listens to understand. He sees the detail, not just the headline. He pays attention to the tone behind the words, the emotions hidden between sentences. Maybe you said you're fine, but he remembers the way your voice dipped slightly and checks in later with genuine concern. That is heart-led memory. It is the most sincere form of interest. This attentiveness naturally creates emotional intimacy. You start feeling safe around him without knowing why. You open up more. You relax. You feel seen, not just noticed, truly seen. And that is something rare. Many relationships fail because people stop paying attention. But when someone builds a connection through constant, small awareness, trust grows without needing to be asked for. He also understands that caring is not always about fixing things. Sometimes it's about acknowledging them. When he remembers what stresses you out, he pays attention to how he can show support. Maybe he doesn't have the perfect solution, but he tries to make your load just a little lighter. Even you mentioned this was happening today. How did it go? Can feel like emotional relief. This kind of memory becomes a silent love language. It shows that he doesn't just enjoy spending time with you. He values who you are when you're not trying to be anything. He's observing the real you, the simple you, the casual you. And he finds that version worth remembering. What's truly powerful is that he remembers without expecting anything back. He doesn't keep score. He doesn't remind you of what he remembered to earn praise. He just quietly holds those details because they matter to him. That's how you recognize sincerity, when someone's actions aren't motivated by reward. Even when he's unsure of his place in your life, the connection he feels pushes him to remain attentive. Listening becomes his way of staying close. Remembering becomes his way of showing his heart without exposing it fully. It's courage disguised as subtlety, a romantic intention wrapped inside everyday moments. The more he remembers, the more emotional threads he ties, connecting you to him in a way that feels natural instead of forced. And over time, these threads form a foundation, a sense of closeness that doesn't need loud confessions. It's built quietly, consistently, with care. So when he remembers your coffee preference, it's not about coffee. When he remembers your favorite music, it's not about songs. When he remembers what stresses you, it's not about problems. It's about connection. It's about care. It's about choosing you again and again in the smallest ways, because in the end, love doesn't reveal itself in the grandest gestures. It reveals itself in the tiniest details, the ones almost invisible to everyone else, except the person who truly cares. When a man has growing feelings for you but isn't sure how you feel in return, he won't rush into letting his emotions show too clearly. Instead, he becomes curious about your life in subtle, almost playful ways. You may notice he jokes lightly about other guys being interested in you, pretending it doesn't bother him. But inside, he's paying very close attention to your response. Does your smile fade? Do you reassure him without realizing it? Do you mention anyone special? It's never really about the joke. It's about the truth he's hoping to hear underneath it. He might casually ask who you spent the weekend with or what your plans look like for the coming days. He frames these questions like harmless conversation, but his heart is listening for clues. He wants to know if there is someone else taking up emotional space in your world. Not because he wants to be controlling or invasive, but because he hopes that space could belong to him. These moments are not interrogation. They are quiet attempts to understand where he stands in your life. When you talk about your friends, he listens carefully to the names you mention. If another man's name appears too often, you may notice a tiny shift in his tone, a slight pause as he processes what that might mean. It's not jealousy in the dramatic sense, it's caution. He wants to open his heart, but not if it's going to break before he even begins. That's why he often brings up dating topics in light conversations. He might ask what kind of men you find attractive, what makes a relationship work for you, or whether you believe in taking things slow. These questions don't come from random curiosity. They're information he needs to decide how to move. If you say you like confident men who make bold moves, his courage will rise. If you say you're not looking for anything serious, he'll take a step back to protect himself. He isn't asking for hypothetical fun. He's asking to see if your desires could align with his. Even the way he reacts when you talk about past relationships reveals a deeper layer. If he becomes quiet but attentive, it's because he's imagining how he might do better. If he asks gentle follow-up questions, he isn't trying to pry. He wants to understand how to make you feel safe and valued in a way someone else failed to. He's not comparing himself to your past. He's learning how to be your future. Sometimes he will test the waters through humor, like saying, "I bet you have a line of guys waiting for you." But while he laughs, he's searching your eyes for clues. Does your answer give him hope? Does it tell him the door is still open? Because even a small sign of interest from you can quiet 1,000 insecurities in his mind. You also notice he becomes more curious when someone else gives you attention. If another man compliments you, he might fall completely silent for a moment, not out of anger, but because his heart stumbles with the fear of losing you before he's even had a chance to try. It's that tiny tightening in the chest that says, I hope I'm not too late. He might even ask playful questions like, so, who's the lucky guy? After you talk about a fun night out. On the surface, it's another joke. Beneath the surface, it's emotional vulnerability hidden behind a smile. His curiosity is his way of caring without risking rejection. Because if you were already taken, he would quietly swallow his feelings and step back, and that thought terrifies him. His effort to understand your perspective on dating also reveals how much he's investing emotionally. If he asks whether you believe relationships should grow slowly or whether you prefer someone who communicates openly, he's trying to see whether he fits into your ideal. He doesn't want to chase where there is no possibility. For him, every question is a step towards you or away from heartbreak. There are moments when he may even compliment other potential partners in your life, not because he wants you with them, but because he's trying to gauge your reaction. He wants to see if you correct him, reassure him, or show a hint of interest in him instead. This is his way of protecting his heart while still moving closer. The most telling part of all this is consistency. A man who is just being friendly doesn't keep circling back to relationship topics. He doesn't keep looking for openings in conversation to learn about your emotional availability. He doesn't keep showing curiosity about whether someone else holds your attention. But someone interested, he keeps showing up in these small ways because he's trying to navigate unknown territory without losing the chance to be a part of your life. He approaches carefully because what he feels is real. He wants to be respectful, not intrusive. He wants to show interest, not pressure. He wants to understand your heart before risking his own. Sometimes the deepest sign of care is how he listens for the things you don't say. Does your voice soften when you talk about being single? Do you look away when love is mentioned? He notices all of it because love, even in its beginning stages, sharpens awareness. He starts to understand your timing, your emotional walls, your hopes, long before any confessions are exchanged. The truth is, when a man gently tests your availability, he's trying to protect something fragile within himself, the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could become someone important in your life. He doesn't want to assume you're available. He doesn't want to misread your kindness. So he chooses patience over pressure, curiosity over confusion, small steps over reckless leaps. What he truly wants to know is simple: is there room for him in your life? Is there a chance he could become someone you look forward to, someone you trust, someone you choose? Every playful question, every small hint of interest, every little moment of curiosity is a quiet way of asking, is it safe for me to care about you? Because once he knows the door is open, even just a little, he will find the courage to walk through it. And that gentle curiosity will transform into confidence. Interest will become intention, and subtle hopes will become deliberate love. When a man truly cares, he doesn't just pay attention to the big things you say out loud. He notices the subtle shifts that most people overlook. You don't have to announce that something is wrong. He feels it. Maybe your smile is a little slower, your voice is a little softer, or your messages are just slightly shorter than usual. He picks up on those tiny emotional changes because he has tuned himself into you. Your happiness has become part of his awareness, and when that happiness dips, his instincts wake up. He checks in not because he's trying to pry, but because he's genuinely concerned about what's happening inside you. He wants to know what you're feeling, not out of obligation, but out of connection. He may ask a simple, "Are you okay?" but behind it is a deeper meaning. Tell me what's going on so I can stand by you. He doesn't wait for you to reach the breaking point. He notices the early signs that you're distancing yourself, tired, or overwhelmed. He listens to what you aren't saying. That is emotional intelligence wrapped in affection. It's his way of showing that your emotional world matters to him, that he wants to be someone you can lean on without hesitation. In social settings, his protectiveness shows without him ever trying to dominate. If someone speaks harshly to you, he doesn't make a scene, but you will feel his presence shift slightly closer. His tone becomes firm but respectful. His eyes stay alert, watching how you're being treated. He's not possessive, but he won't allow anyone to cross a boundary that makes you uncomfortable. The way he steps in, subtle but strong, says, "I've got you." Even if you don't realize it in the moment, his body language speaks volumes. He is aware of the energy around you, and he instinctively acts like a buffer between you and anything that feels unsettling. He also defends you in conversations when you're not around. If someone misunderstands you or speaks negatively, he doesn't let it slide. He addresses it calmly and respectfully because he won't let anyone reduce the person he holds so dearly. That's real loyalty, when he protects your name, even when there is no reward in it for him. It's not about being a hero. It's about honoring what you mean to him. But the most beautiful part, he gives you safety without taking away your freedom. He doesn't tell you what to wear, who to talk to, or where to go. He doesn't cage you under the excuse of love. Instead, he creates a space where you feel secure simply because he is steady, present, and emotionally available. You don't feel like you're being controlled. You feel like you're being cared for. His protection doesn't suffocate, it empowers. With him, you feel more confident, more understood, more seen. When you're upset, he doesn't rush to fix everything. He sits with your emotion, lets you talk, lets you cry, lets you express what hurts without minimizing it. He doesn't call you dramatic or overly sensitive. He acknowledges your feelings as valid. He understands that sometimes the heart doesn't need a solution. It just needs to be held. And even if he doesn't have the right words, he'll still try, because silence is not an option when someone he cares about is hurting. He celebrates your highs with excitement and stands by you through your lows with patience. When life gets heavy, he doesn't disappear or give you space because it's easier for him. He stays close, even if you try to push him away. He understands that people withdraw when they're hurting, but he doesn't take your distance personally. Instead, he reminds you gently that you're not alone. He may send a message like, "I'm here if you need me," or show up with your favorite snack without making it a big deal. These small acts are his way of saying, your well-being matters, you matter. He also understands that emotional safety is built through consistency. When he says he'll be there, he shows up. When he promises he'll call, the phone rings. You don't have to doubt his intentions or decode his behavior. His presence becomes something you can trust, something grounding. He becomes your calm when things around you feel chaotic. With him, vulnerability feels less risky and more like relief. He learns your triggers, not to avoid you, but to love you better. He pays attention to what makes you anxious, what hurts you from your past, and what fears live inside your silence. He may not fully understand everything you've been through, but he respects that your experiences shaped who you are. So when you get scared or insecure, he doesn't blame you. He supports you through it. He speaks reassurance where past wounds taught you to expect abandonment. And when you open up, he listens without interrupting. He doesn't look at his phone or try to change the subject. He gives you his full focus because he knows that someone opening their heart is one of the most sacred exchanges between two people. He values that. He values you. His effort isn't about obligation or trying to score points. It flows naturally because caring feels right to him. He may not always say, "Oh, I love you," right away, but every thoughtful gesture whispers it quietly. You feel safe in his presence, not because he forces you, but because he earns your trust day by day. Real care isn't loud. It's not showy. It doesn't demand attention. It simply exists in the way he sees you, protects you, and chooses you without making you feel trapped. This is what genuine emotional care looks like, not possession, not control, but a steady promise. You don't have to face life alone. I'm right here. When you respond with warmth, something powerful happens inside him. A simple smile from you can change the entire atmosphere of the moment. It tells him that his presence is welcome, that his effort matters, and that he isn't wasting his time trying to get closer to you. That small curve of your lips reassures him in ways words cannot. It shows him that you're not cold, distant, or uninterested. You're open to the connection, open to the moment, open to him. And that openness becomes the signal he's been waiting for. A soft tone from you is like permission to breathe. Many men are used to guarding themselves, used to being misunderstood or judged for expressing too much emotion. But when you speak gently, when your voice shows kindness rather than pressure, he relaxes, his anxiety lowers, his heart stops holding its breath. A soft tone tells him he doesn't have to pretend to be stronger than he is or hide what he feels. It tells him you're not someone he has to impress. You're someone he can be real with. And when you appreciate his effort, no matter how small, you validate the courage behind every step he takes. You see, effort is risk. Every time he reaches out, initiates conversation, plans something thoughtful, or pays attention to your feelings, he is putting his heart on the line, even if he never says it aloud. So when you respond with gratitude, you reinforce the idea that caring for you is worth it. Appreciation becomes the oxygen that keeps his motivation alive. It tells him that the way he gives love is not only acceptable, it's valued. This is where something shifts inside him. The subtle hints he once dropped out of fear or uncertainty start becoming clearer, more intentional. He sees that you're receptive. He sees that you're not trying to push him away or make him guess your feelings forever. He sees that you aren't playing games. You're participating in the connection with him. As you create a safe emotional space through small but meaningful gestures, he stops overthinking and starts expressing. What was once a quiet hope turns into honest words. What was once hesitation becomes confidence. He no longer needs to test the waters. He now wants to dive in. The closeness that was building silently begins to take shape out loud. He goes from trying not to scare you off to trying to show up more clearly in your life. When a man feels emotionally safe, his vulnerability becomes a gift he brings willingly. He starts sharing his fears, his dreams, his insecurities, not to seek pity, but because he trusts that you will handle his heart with care. He will tell you what he truly thinks, not just what sounds good. He will show you what he truly feels, not just what he thinks you want to hear. Emotional safety allows love to stop hiding in shadows and step proudly into the light. And this is where the connection becomes mutual, not a guessing game. You no longer have to wonder whether he cares because he shows it openly. He no longer tries to decode your reactions because he knows where he stands. Communication becomes honest instead of cautious. Affection becomes confident instead of subtle. The relationship grows not from assumptions but from shared truth. When both people feel safe, love flows naturally. There's no need for manipulation, no need to chase or pull back, no need to test loyalty. Instead of playing roles, both of you get to be fully yourselves and still be loved. You don't fear losing him. He doesn't fear failing you. You begin to trust the connection more than the doubts. Your smile becomes his encouragement. Your softness becomes his comfort. Your appreciation becomes his motivation. And in return, his consistency becomes your reassurance. His effort becomes your peace. His honesty becomes your clarity. It becomes a cycle of emotional nourishment where love is not demanded but given freely, where care is not conditional but continuous, where communication doesn't feel like a battlefield, it feels like home. The beauty of this transformation is that it doesn't require grand gestures or dramatic declarations. It grows from the tiniest signals of acceptance, the kind that say, I see you and I like what I see. Men fall deeper when they feel understood. They open up when they feel welcomed. They love harder when they feel safe. And when that safety exists, a relationship becomes less about trying to read signs and more about building something real together. You stop asking, does he care? Because his actions answer the question daily. You stop wondering what he means because he tells you plainly. You stop doubting his presence because he keeps showing up with intention, with heart, with honesty. This is the moment when love stops being a puzzle and becomes a partnership. So when you respond to him with warmth, a gentle smile, a caring tone, and simple recognition of his effort, you are doing more than reacting. You are opening a door. You are saying, without needing to speak the words, it's safe for you here. And once that message reaches him, he will walk through that door with a heart that's no longer afraid. Because love, in the presence of emotional safety, does not hide. It grows, it deepens, it becomes undeniable.